Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bleav in Bengal podcast. Solomon Wilcots here. My heart is breaking today on this Friday, the day after the Bengals lose in the Thursday night game to the Baltimore Ravens, 35-34. And the reason why the score is what it is, because Zach Taylor decided to go for 2 points when they could have kicked the extra point easily and tied the game up and potentially send it into overtime. It would have been tied 35-35. I'm going to tell you right now, Cincinnati Bengals fans, I'm wholly supportive of Zach Taylor going for the 2-point conversion. It was the absolute right thing to do. You know why? There were still 33 seconds left on the clock, and we would have kicked the ball off to Lamar Jackson and gave him the ball with 33 seconds left. From what we saw from our defense, we couldn't stop a bloody nose. We allowed the Baltimore Ravens to score 4 consecutive touchdowns on 4 straight drives, touchdown after another, all sparked, by the way, by the Chase Brown fumble. Now, look, Chase is a second-year running back. I'm sure it hurts today, and I'm not sitting here pounding Chase for the turnover, but it was costly because it gave the Baltimore Ravens the ball on a short field, and it gave them the momentum and the energy that saw that offense now come alive. The Bengals did a great job of keeping Derrick Henry really out of this game. He only finished with maybe 65 yards rushing in the game, well under 100 yards rushing on the day for Derrick Henry. Cincinnati Bengals did a great job, really 2 games in a row of containing him. Problem is we couldn't contain Lamar Jackson. We couldn't tackle a wide receiver running down the sideline. We couldn't stop them from throwing the ball over our heads for a touchdown to Mark Andrews. Other than that, the Cincinnati Bengals offense was lights out. And that's why if you're Zach Taylor, I'm betting on Joe Burrow more than I'm betting on my defense, because if I get 2 points right here, it's most likely going to be game over. But if it goes into overtime, what good did it do me to kick the extra point, tie it up, and send it into overtime where we can't get a stop on defense? It does you no good. All you're doing is prolonging the inevitable. That means a loss at M&T Bank Stadium when you could go for the win right there. There's an old saying. If David is fighting Goliath, or if you're fighting a giant, and you've got the sword right there, ready to drive it and thrust it in, don't let him up. Don't you let that giant up. You better thrust that sword in right where you got it, right there. You got to put it in there. That's what the Bengals were attempting to do. That's all they were trying to do. 2 points would have been the last thrust of the sword to keep our season alive, to get the Bengals back to 500 at 5-5, as opposed to what we're sitting here this morning looking at 4-6, and now 2 losses within the division. I'm not saying it's over. I'm telling you, the pulse is growing faint. The playoff hopes has got a little faint pulse right about now. One last candle lit on the cake before it all goes out. But I will tell you this, Cincinnati Bengals, a valiant effort. Look, I'm going to tell you about Bet Online. It is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for betting online. Just go to Bet Online. The game starts here. Cincinnati Bengals, it was a historic game in terms of the production that we saw from Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. Look, I tell you about some of the historic moments for this game. Ja'Marr Chase became the first player in NFL history to have multiple games with 250 yards receiving and multiple touchdowns. He's now done it twice. 264 yards receiving, 264 yards off 11 catches in the Thursday night game against Baltimore Ravens. 3 touchdowns receiving. He's got 12 career receptions that are 50-yard touchdowns. 12 times he's done that. And he's not even 24 years of age. He's 24, not 25. Just phenomenal in terms of the way that this guy is playing at such an early age and the things that he's doing for Joe Burrow. Burrow had over 400 yards passing in the game, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles, no turnovers. The only turnover in the game was that of the fumble by second-year running back Chase Brown. Chase is going to be okay. But Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, without T. Higgins, had a historical night, an epic, wonderful evening. This was the 4th game in Joe Burrow's career where he had over 400 yards passing against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know the Ravens' defense isn't that great this year, but traditionally, they've been one of the top defenses in the National Football League perennially, year over year. And Joe Burrow, good or bad for the Ravens, he carves them up. He has his way with that defense. That says a lot about who our quarterback is. I'm taking Joe Burrow over any quarterback in the National Football League. The guy gets up, he gets hit, he takes it on the chin. And speaking of taking it on the chin, can the officials not see what's going on in these games? Can't they see the face mask? Joe Burrow was hit in the face. You cannot hit, the rule states that you cannot hit the quarterback in the head while he's throwing the football, while he's attempting to throw the ball. You can't go low on his legs, and you can't hit him in the head or face area. I'm not making that up. That's what the rule book says. However, last night, the officials, they must live in Baltimore because they watched it happen. All over social media, we've got pictures circulating where guys got their hands on Joe Burrow's face mask as he's trying to throw on a 2-point conversion. As he's trying to throw the football, you've got one defensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens has got his hands on the face of the offensive lineman, who's flat on his back, by the way. And he's also got his hands on the face mask of Joe Burrow. Meanwhile, his other teammate, the defensive lineman, has his face, his hands, I should say, on the face mask of another Bengals offensive lineman, which tells you it's not a mistake because they did it multiple times. And on the one play, multiple players did it on the very same play. They teach it. They're teaching it. At critical moments, do it and force the official to have to throw the flag. We're banking they're not going to do it. We're banking that they don't have enough courage to enforce the rules of the game when the game is on the line. The Baltimore Ravens won this game tactically by scheming against NFL officials, just saying that they don't have the courage to call the play. And you know how I know this? Look at how they played in the secondary on the final plays of the game. They're holding Mike Gesicki. They're holding Tanner Hudson. They make them throw the flag. You remember how the Bengals got down there to begin with? They did throw the flag on the earlier downs because guess what? It was roughing the passer. They hit Joe Burrow late. But you know what the Ravens players were saying? We're going to make them throw the flag. And if they don't throw it, we win. If they throw it, then okay, we'll live with it. And on the final play, they didn't throw the flag. Not either on the 2 defensive linemen on the face mask play or the 2 or 3 members in their secondary who 2 of them were holding Mike Gesicki, and one of them, as the ball was coming in for Tanner Hudson, the guy is tackling Tanner Hudson before the ball arrives. That's called pass interference. So you had a holding on the 2-point conversion. You had a holding on Gesicki, a pass interference on the defender who was defending Tanner Hudson. You had a face mask penalty, hitting Joe Burrow in the face, and also another face mask penalty against hitting one of our offensive guards. Clearly, you can't take the face mask and push it up as you're rushing the quarterback. Flag should have been flying all over the place. But you know what? They said that the NFL officials don't have the courage to throw the flag with the game on the line on national TV because people don't want to see laundry on the field. They want to see the game won and decided by how we play. And guess what? The Baltimore Ravens gambled and won. They bet right because the NFL Every last one of those officials, you know what they did? Stuck that flag in their pocket and didn't even reach for it. They were going to let it go down the way it was going to go down. And even Joe Burrow said, they're not making that call because he knows they don't have the courage to do so. So I'm not going to sit here and cry and say the Bengals got hosed or they got jobbed. You got to go out and take what you want in this life, right? Right? We eat what we kill, and we don't look for no favors, and nobody's showing up to your household or mine, paying our bills for us because they feel sorry for us. And at the end of the day, we got to get up every morning and earn what we get. So while I don't like that the officials sit, you got visual evidence of infractions taking place on the field on those very last plays all over the place. I got a problem with that. But I'm not going to sit and say that's why the Bengals lost. The Bengals lost because we couldn't tackle Tyquan Wallace on the sideline. We had 3 missed tackles on that play. At least the sideline's supposed to help us make a tackle, right? Even the sideline couldn't tackle him. His heel did not touch the sideline. We gave up 4 touchdowns in the second half. 28 points scored in the second half by the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night was the most points any team has given up in the second half of any game this season. That's why we lost the game. We lost the game because we didn't block, we didn't tackle, we didn't cover. I don't know what's happened to our secondary, man. I don't know. I don't know. I tell you what, though, Cincinnati Bengals, you could tell I'm burning today. Pay Ja'Marr Chase his money. Pay that guy his money. You have played with our hearts and with our minds. For those of us who love this team and love these players, these guys put it on the line. He's one of them. You drafted him. He's come through for you and with flying colors at a historic level. A historic level. Do you know that Ja'Marr Chase's 457 yards receiving in both games against the Baltimore Ravens are the most ever by any player in the 105-year history of our league against one team in the same season? Never been done before, ever. And yet we're going to make him beg, borrow, and steal for his money. We're going to play brinksmanship when he goes to negotiate for the contract extension. We're going to act like he doesn't deserve it or hasn't earned it. This Thursday night game proves that he has earned it, and then some. That's why this offseason the price goes up. The $30 million that you refused to pay him per season last year, with whatever guaranteed money you wanted, the price goes up. And from what we've seen so far this year, guess what? You're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to pay for it. He's put up more numbers, more statistically. He's leading the league in receiving touchdowns. He's leading the league in receiving yards. This despite not practicing once during two-a-day training camp. Oh, by the way, you don't have two-a-days anymore, do you? My point is, it hurt the team. It hurt the morale of the team moving into the season in September. This team was lifeless that first game against the New England Patriots. And that's not the coach's fault. That's an organizational issue. Come on, we can do better. He is doing better for the team. And I don't want to see us waste the careers of Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. The way they're playing, this city deserves a championship. Those players are playing at a championship level. They're giving us everything we got, everything they got. They're giving it to us. We got to give them all we got, Cincinnati Bengals. I'm saying that with love. I'm saying it with all the respect that I have in this franchise and all the love that I have for the franchise. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't come with animosity. It just comes with good, hardcore wisdom, because that's what we're bringing today. All right, now it's time to name our performer of the week, week 10 for the Cincinnati Bengals in their performance against the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night. Of course, this is brought to you by French Creek Roofing, Greater Cincinnati's choice for roofing, windows, and siding. If you need a new roof, you need new windows, you need new siding, The people at French Creek Roofing are the people to call. I'm going to tell you right now, they do a great job, just like Ja'Marr Chase did in the Thursday night game. That's why he's our performer of the week. This guy, 264 yards receiving, 11 catches, 3 touchdowns without T. Higgins on the field. He was getting double covered most of the night. He had a 64-yard catch and run, and then he had a 70-yard strike down the field. He was killing the Baltimore Ravens. In fact, there are still people in the street in Baltimore right now, just gnashing of teeth, ripping the clothes off of what Ja'Marr Chase is doing to this defense. Because you know what it did? It showed that while the Baltimore Ravens are the lead in the clubhouse in the AFC North and a really good team with a great quarterback in Lamar Jackson himself, they're not a championship team. They're not a Super Bowl team. If you are a firm believer that that defense wins championships, there's no way you can call that defense of the Baltimore Ravens. There's no way you can call them a Super Bowl contender. They don't have a Super Bowl defense. Joe Burrow has had 9 touchdown passes against the Baltimore Ravens in 2 games this season. Ja'Marr Chase, 57 receiving yards against the Baltimore Ravens in the 2 games this season. 5 touchdowns, by the way. Those 457 yards receiving in 2 games against the Baltimore Ravens are the most by any player in NFL history against one team in the same season. So at a historic rate, that defense is hemorrhaging. But Ja'Marr Chase, you are setting yourself as one of the great young wide receivers in this league. He's not even 25 years old. He's putting up numbers that we have never seen before. No player in NFL history has had multiple games with 250 plus receiving yards and multiple touchdown receptions. Ja'Marr Chase has now done that twice. Ja'Marr Chase has now had 12 catches of 50 yards or more go for a touchdown. He's only 24 years old. Bengals, all I have to say, pay that man. He's not only our performer of the week, he's our performer of the year. He's our performer of the age. He is more than deserving to be the top paid wide receiver in the National Football League. And that's going to cost you more than you could have signed him for this offseason. He's now going to want more than his LSU buddy, Justin Jefferson. And I would argue that he should get it. I know that Joe Burrow would probably argue for that too. In fact, Bengals fans, if you're thinking, how does Joe Burrow feel about Ja'Marr Chase? In the hold in, remember not practicing? Of course he wanted him to practice. Of course he wanted him to be out there in August and September practicing during training camp. But you know what? Joe Burrow respected why Ja'Marr Chase was not practicing, because it was business. It wasn't personal. It was business. And I even think for the Cincinnati Bengals front office, it was business, that it wasn't personal. I do believe they love Ja'Marr Chase just as much as I do, just as much as you Cincinnati Bengals fans do. Problem is trying to square the economics with what should be rightfully compensated here. The other teams don't have that problem, and their receiver's not even as good as Ja'Marr Chase. So that's where we need to catch up. We're playing catch up a little bit, Cincinnati Bengals. Let's get up. Let's get caught up. Let's get caught up. The guys who we draft, who perform exceedingly above expectations, should be a no-brainer. In fact, if you get them signed sooner rather than later, it's going to cost you less money. I get it. I know you get this, but Ja'Marr Chase is one of those players that you don't question. He is committed mentally, physically, and in every single way. He's a hard worker. He's committed to this franchise. What we don't want to do is decommit him by making him have to suffer a little bit by playing brinksmanship with negotiations. He's my performer of the week 10, and it could have gone to Joe Burrow, who, by the way, now has 3 games of over 400-yard passing against the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Burrow continues to do everything he can. Did you love that maniacal look that he has? That's a competitor. That's the look of a guy who's trying to win every single game he can for Cincinnati Bengals fans. When he said he wanted to bring a championship to Cincinnati, he wasn't just joking. We need to do everything we can, Cincinnati, to support Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, and the players who lay it all on the line for this franchise. That's what you saw Thursday night. I know there are no moral victories, but on Thursday night, I saw two champions. And I'm not saying that the other guys weren't champions, but those two, oh man, they were bringing it. They gave us the best. That all the other 31 teams who were watching, their owners, their coaches, their players, they looked at Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase and said, bad dudes. That's what a quarterback looks like. That's what a wide receiver looks like. That's what it looks like when the two are having chemistry and trust in one another. That's what it looks like when they want to win so bad. They'll do anything for one another, right, to bring home a championship. And I got to believe all the other owners, like, if I had that quarterback, I could win. I could win a Super Bowl. If I had that wide receiver, I could win a Super Bowl. If I had two guys that I was fortunate enough to draft who played in college together, by the way, and won them a championship, I know I could win a championship with those two guys. The question remains, can we? I believe we can, but I want to start seeing the tea leaves and the wind shift in a direction that smells like a championship is coming our way, Cincinnati. That's a cut. That's your natural break. All right. We're wrapping it up here. Looking ahead. Who are Bengals even playing? Oh, LA Chargers. Here we go. Back to the Bleav in Bengals podcast. Solomon Wilcots here. It's time to look ahead to week 11. That's right. Cincinnati Bengals have 10 days off before we go out to SoFi Stadium. That is the place where we played the Rams in the Super Bowl. Out in my hometown in Los Angeles, California. Beautiful palm trees. You can still see the Hollywood sign. That's right. And I love LA. You know what I'm saying? Go Dodgers. Okay, back to business. As we look ahead, it's brought to us by the people, the lovely people at Midwest Hospice. If you're dealing with the final days of a loved one, call the people at Midwest Hospice. They've been putting in business in Greater Cincinnati for over the last 10 years. They are trusted caregivers, and they will make sure they take care of your loved ones. So as we look ahead to week 11, Cincinnati Bengals are going to take on an LA Chargers team. By the way, the Chargers have themselves a great defense. A great defense. You know, they're the league's #1 ranked scoring defense. Heading into week 10, they're only giving up 12 points per game. They have a coverage unit that cover as well as anyone, and they can get after the quarterback with the likes of Joey Bosa. Remember Ohio State Buckeye Joey Bosa? And I can tell you right now, they have so many good players that continue to make plays. Khalil Mack on that defense. They have multiple players who have multiple sacks. And Jim Harbaugh, he's got a knack of just building tough teams that play hard, that play good defense and can run the ball. J.K. Dobbins is the guy running the ball. More importantly, this is another matchup between two great quarterbacks from the great quarterback draft class of 2020. Listen, I know quarterbacks don't play against each other. And that's when Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles came into Paycor Stadium and beat the Bengals. I was upset because I was upset for Joe. Because there's no way Jalen Hurts is better than Joe Burrow. But they are drafted in the same draft class. And for him to sit around and walk around and say, yeah, I'm 1-0 against Joe Burrow, it don't sit well with me. And right now, Justin Herbert, I don't know what his record is against Joe Burrow right now in the NFL. I think he's 1-0, something like that. We got to beat the Chargers just for bragging rights. We got to beat the Chargers to get back into this playoff race. Because if we win this game going into the bye, now we come out of the bye, and now we're playing to get back to 500 at 6-6. It can be done. It's not over, Cincinnati Bengals fans. But we got to win this game out in LA against the LA Chargers, week 11. That's the game that's coming up. It's probably going to be the toughest defense we've seen all season. So that means our defense has to play well. We cannot be giving up 28 points in the second half. So if we play well defensively, and we have done this, we've had some good games where our defense has shown up. We just got to be more consistent on defense. There's no doubt about it. All right, Cincinnati Bengals fans, look, don't forget to join me next time.